Hello, wonderful listeners. Welcome to this edition of Scouting for Growth. Today, I'm joined by Clemens Behrend, an entrepreneur with a rich background in building customer-facing support solutions in Web3. Clemens spent over 5 years building Bitpanda's customer community department from scratch and scaling it from pre-seed to unicorn status. Yes. And it is important to understand that the power of Web3 is in building unique communities. At Bitpanda, Clemens oversaw the customer support operation with a team of 130 people while working for the CFO. He explained to me that he established OKRs, guidelines, and quality assurance, and a solid and positive customer relationship and experience to drive retention. And through retention, he got, with the team, Bitpanda to its unicorn status. Today, Clemens specializes around 3 areas: Web3, Bitcoin, and cryptocurrencies. I know the crypto world has not done too well in recent high inflation and interest rates time, but like anything, this will turn, Clemens explains. So during our deep dive, Clemens and I will talk about his interest in Web3, Bitcoin, and crypto, why he believes that those 3 components are key to building unique communities. We touch upon 2 client examples, one around Web3 and another one around Bitcoin, and where the use case for each work. Then I've asked Clemens to share a few tips for those of us interested in learning and trialing such technology. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, do not forget to subscribe to it, rate it, and provide a comment here below. If there is a topic you feel needs addressing, just send me a message using the channel option listed below too, and I promise you a response. And quite a few people have reached out to engage with me through those methods. So let's welcome Clemens. Hi, Clemens. Thank you very much for joining me on Scouting for Growth. So it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Hi, Sabine. Thanks for having me. So my name is Clemens Behrend. I'm the founder of Web3 CX. We focus on customer experience in Web3, and that's also the topic we will talk about today. And I've also worked like in the 5 years for Bitpanda, like a cryptocurrency exchange from the EU. It's like somehow the European Coinbase. And in these 5 years, I built up like the customer support and community support. So I talked with like 1 million people about cryptocurrencies, Web3, NFTs, and all of these things. And I'm here today to explain like the most common questions and like what's going on in the industry.
So before we go into the questions that the industry want to discover, tell us what got you into Web3 and crypto and all those, what I would say, esoteric technologies that are actually scaring some of us in finance.
So how did I get into crypto? So in my youth, I played like a lot of computer games, and like at a certain point, I realized that with those computer games, you could also earn some money because people were selling these items. And so I started to launch my first small business. So it was like an online shop for like virtual items or like for computer games. So this was also where I discovered like my passion for customer support. So I've got like a 5.0 rating there. So like all the customers were happy. And I think I had around like 1,000, 2,000 clients back then, what was quite impressive. But like the biggest mistake, what I did back then, I was like relying on only one payment method. So it was like something changed then, like they introduced like some KYC rules, and it was not that easy to use. So I've got also the first time aware of like, if you don't make it easy for your customers to pay you, then you maybe can go out of business. And then I didn't have really like a clue. And then a friend of mine like showed me Bitcoin, and this actually was the like the solution for the problem what I got. But like after I discovered Bitcoin, I closed like this first business because I then fully focused on cryptocurrencies. This was also the motivation then for studying pure economics. So especially the concept of free banking from August Friedrich Hayek, which is like somehow from the last century, which already predicted like private currencies. So the concept behind Bitcoin is not that new. It's just beautiful to see how it now comes into practice.
So before we go into deep dive into, Bitcoins as an example, tell us a bit more about Bitpanda, because you've worked for Unicorn, and, a lot of the listeners on the podcast are trying to build their own unicorn or own startup, at least to actually get it to scale. And we also have investors and entrepreneurs listening to the podcast as well, Clemens. So what was your experience working and shaping a unicorn startup?
So what was my experience with shaping a unicorn startup, especially from the customer support perspective? So I started there like at pre-seed, like in 2017. They were founded in 2014, and it became a unicorn, I think, in 2020 or 2021, something around that time. And so like this was also like, I think, before the first funding, I also got like somehow interaction with VC fundings where we received really well feedback from them. So we showed them like the number from our customer support operations, and they were really impressed how quick we reply and also how happy our customers were. Because this is like not like typical in the financial industry, and especially in the crypto industry, where a lot of things are hard to understand. So we received a very positive feedback then from the investors, and I could also then tell this feedback to my team. And of course, this was something that motivated them because they could see they talked to the customers who pay for the service, so actually also for the salaries. And on the other side, they could also see that they really make an impact, that the company is growing, receiving funding, and also like keeping the customers. So this was then my experience when it comes to building like a unicorn. And I think the most important thing is what people need to realize when building a unicorn, especially in the crypto industry. Crypto is 24/7. So it's not like the stock market that it closed on Friday afternoon. It's also on the weekends. And I think we had like our key success factor was that we are based in Austria. We had like an impressum, and that's not typical for like the crypto industry. So for instance, Binance is like somehow the biggest exchange in the world, and people didn't know for years where they have that location. So this was, of course, the transparency and also the trust that we received from our clients. And also, I think the last ingredient was that we were always like reachable, even like on these outside of the office hours, and that we had quite early like somehow a 24/7 support, what is essential in this industry, what is also an expectation from the customers, but also maybe from the investors.
Interesting. So the ability to serve the customer real time all the time was one of your key differentiator. So help us understand, how does Web3, crypto, and Bitcoins connect with one another?
Okay, that's a really amazing question. So maybe let's start with Web3. So like the easiest example what I can give people who don't have an idea of the concept is when you look at a certain page where you have a login to a platform. So in Web2, you have like the Google SSO or like Apple SSO. And in Web1, you only have a username and an email. And in Web3, the difference is you connect with your wallet. So you also can like transfer financial data like on the blockchain. So this is like the easiest example how you can understand like Web1, Web2, and Web3. So then Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, how to separate that? That's like an also really amazing question. And that's like also important for people who are newly getting started in the field. Like Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency, and it's, I would say, maybe the only really decentralized cryptocurrency. All the other cryptocurrencies are like forks or copies because the source code of Bitcoin is open source and everybody can publish and own cryptocurrencies. But these cryptocurrencies in general are really centralized like companies. So in this, investing into Bitcoin and investing into cryptocurrencies are two different things and also have like different risks. So I would say like to get started, Bitcoin is fine, but like cryptocurrencies, it's like really volatile and people should do like some research before they invest into it. So, and I think, yeah, that would be the answer.
Yeah. So what is happening with Bitcoin? I was looking at some of the news and, well, it crashed, right, a little bit. And I guess it's linked to interest rate and inflations that are affecting a lot of economies right now.
Yeah.
Tell us what is happening with Bitcoin, and should we trust Bitcoin still with all the stuff we've heard in recent months?
So should we trust Bitcoin still? Yes, definitely, because the uptime is still like amazing of Bitcoin. We have like over 99.9 uptime doing it's existing. I think there were like two short outages of like a few hours or so. Like in the last one was like 10 years ago. So when we compare to like traditional payment methods like Visa or MasterCard or even Swift, I think only looking at the uptime, so when the payment system is working, then Bitcoin is doing still great. So, and now at the beginning from the year until now recently, Bitcoin rise a little bit. And this was mainly because there was like a negative sentiment across the banks. So we had the Silicon Valley Bank collapse and also like First Republic Bank collapse, because like Bitcoin was always built on this narrative of having like an alternative finance system without intermediaries compared to traditional finance. But of course, since Bitcoin is like a risk asset and like still quite new, it's really reliant on what this Federal Reserve does. So like on the M2 money supply. So depending if they are tightening the monetary policy or if they like print more, then of course like Bitcoin is all the time reacting to it. So now looking like only at today. So today is the 5th of June. So where we had like a 5 or 10% crash, what is quite remarkable for one day. And I think it's also where your question is going towards to. So like 2 or 3 hours ago, the SEC, so the regulatory, the regulator from the US, they accused Binance that they mix like the customer funds like with their own funds. And I think people have like an understanding of like how banks operate, but like how centralized exchanges operates a little bit different. So centralized exchanges actually need to keep the money of the customer one by 100%. So they cannot use it for something else. Like in bank and traditional finance, they can give out loans and don't have to do that. So that's like also like a topic that is quite sensitive. And of course, now Binance needs to give a statement and needs to prove that they are not doing it. And otherwise, if they are doing it, then the regulator will take steps. And of course, now there's this uncertainty in the market of today. The price crashed a little bit, but I think in the next few days, we will see like if there's more panic to come or things are getting solved, but it will at least now some volatility will come back, because in the last 3 months, there was not much movement.
Yeah, interesting. So I know you have been working with clients and helping them better understand Web3, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. I know you have one example with regard to winery clients. Can you tell us how you have been advising a winery client to utilize Bitcoin for faster transaction with Chinese customers, which I think is fascinating?
Yeah, so this was like in 2015 or 2016, and there like cryptocurrencies were not that huge like they are now today. So today I would say there's somehow mainstream, but like around that time only like some geeks or top people who were into it were somehow aware of it. So just by coincidence, when I did like some consultancy project like at this company, they complained about that like they always had to wait for like super long, like 3 weeks when they made like a payment with like some Chinese client. And around that time, I think like Bitcoin was already quite popular in China. So the good thing or like the advantages of using Bitcoin compared to normal payment methods was that it was just quicker and also cheaper. And I think the service what they used for was like BitPay. So BitPay is maybe not that big anymore, but they were quite prominent during that time, because everybody should like accept cryptocurrencies, because there are services which directly sell the coins for you, so that you don't have to worry about the volatility. And I think like a lot of people always saying like, okay, they're not sure if they should accept it, but I think everyone would agree on that you should always make it as easy as possible for your clients to pay you. So I think every company should like take like the 10 or 20 minutes, how long it needs to set up like an account with some of these payment providers and accept crypto, because usually it's a win-win when you compare it also to the costs of like credit cards. Usually it's Bitcoin is there also quite cheaper.
Interesting. So your view is that because, you know, the market has been super volatile. And so that is a question actually which has gone into my head. which is if I open a Bitcoin account, and I do have one, but I just put the money there and I just let it sit just to actually see what happened. It's more around curiosity. So your view is that by using your Bitcoin account, you can actually take advantage of arbitrage. I mean, do you put money and let it sit, or you just do the transaction when you have to do those financial transactions with clients, which may be difficult to pay in market? Because I can see it increasing maybe in Asia. I see it increasing in Latam. I see it also increasing in Africa, partly when you have countries with high interest rates and where the cost of money is actually devalued massively. So what's your view?
So you should look for a service like that. Like exchanges usually offer that. So for instance, like Coinbase Commerce, or like usually exchanges which have like a certain license what they need from the regulator. So you can have an account with a centralized exchange, so not an own private wallet. And once you receive funds at this centralized exchange, they automatically sell the coins to fiat for you. So you don't have to bother around like what you receive. So that's definitely like an approach what everybody should do. And I think when we look only at the adoption rate worldwide, of course it's going up, because in the internet it's already becomes like somehow as a standard for payment goods. Because like what are the competitors? I think like how's it called? Um, Union transfer or something, what was used back in the old days, where you had to pay like for a huge transaction like almost half of the price. So I think cryptocurrencies are definitely like the payment methods of the future, which we will see like across the world.
So tell us about how you combine now, Web3 and cryptocurrency in your day to day. You are advising clients, you are helping startups and ventures to get closer to this new world. I mean, as I mentioned, we moved from Web 1 to Web 2, and now we are going to go into Web 3. And so we need to actually understand how digital wallets are working to be able to engage into a Web 3 world. How are you advising your clients, and how are you helping them better choices as we look into moving into that Web3 world?
So the most common like request or order what we receive is usually helping them setting up like a community which is for their Web3 company. So the most beautiful thing I think what you can have like with Web3 is that you can actually like find like a lot of good data. So you can see like the social media profiles of the people and also like the wallet. So they are like set up system where you can manage like communities, create different tasks, and like if they do these tasks, then they receive a reward on their address. And still you can somehow do like a KYC of them, because with the wallet they sign a message, so they authenticate themselves. So that's like somehow as in KYC. So for instance, you do like a giveaway or some marketing campaign, you can be sure that it's really the person who you assume that it is the person, without that this person have to like show his ID card or anything. And that's like really great with Web3. And also since you can see like the transactions which are happening around your community, even if you have like a small crypto project or an NFT project, you can then also see like the type of profiles or customers that interact with you. So, for instance, when people are liking your posts on social media, you could theoretically sort them by like who has like the biggest wallet balance, and then the most funds on his wallet. And then depending on the service that you offer, you can pitch your service to people who you know that they first like engaged with your content, but also maybe have the money to buy your products. And that's so like customer segmentation of your community is something what really works well in Web3, because you have like all of these social media and blockchain data combined, which you can like use and to analyze like what's going on.
Yeah, interesting. And so when you look at larger organization, do you have experience, and have you seen corporation, establish companies considering to build a Web3 and cryptocurrency strategy already today? Or do you mostly work with younger ventures?
That's a really good question. So, like, I can already answer that one. So, I think everybody knows Jägermeister, like the alcohol brand. So, I'm currently working like with an NFT project. They have a partnership together with them, and so actually, what they plan to do for their people who buy the NFT, that they get a Jägermeister bottle with the NFT on it. Sounds maybe a little bit silly from people from the outside, but within like the NFT community, they are usually hyped up for these things. So of course, like NFTs is like exploring like the possibilities of it. So that's also why the most people just do like some weird looking animal pictures or make some merchandise and some fun stuff around of it. But overall, it still helps like to explore what's technically possible. So that's like of one project, like it's called Artsy Apes. So together with Jägermeister in a few weeks, and they will do like this campaign together. And for the people who already know NFTs and also know Jägermeister, for them it's really nice. But maybe like for people who only know Jägermeister but not into this NFT or the crypto space, they are maybe like, okay, what's that weird stuff? So they have to maybe do the research for the first time. And that's so like also a way to get like traction on the industry overall. So that's like also something where then projects appreciate each other. And yeah, so that's like the main target, more like to make people aware of like Web3.
So driving awareness and getting people to start playing with NFTs and Web3 by using a big brand like Yoga Master, and also using the tag, right? I guess the QR code or whatever, right? People can actually use their phone to be able to start understanding the power of NFTs and how to leverage NFTs. Any other examples?
If you think about any other examples? So with, I think it depends always on the market sentiment. So currently, like a lot of office building, but there's not no crazy hype. And usually, big Web2 companies, of course, they want to do something at the hype. So currently, we have like Nike and Adidas. So like the clothing brands are doing a lot in the industry. Um, but it's more like that, like currently the companies who are left in the industry are really Web3 companies who do this like as a main business and more doing the hypes than like Web2 companies are coming in. So like I think the Jägermeister example is like the most prominent that I got at the moment.
That's cool. And so what do you think are the steps businesses interested in Web3 should follow to get to understand it better and start considering it as part of their strategy? Because what you actually highlighted, it's a really cool way to create community and also to drive education of that community around the power of crypto, NFTs, but also what is going to be Web3 in the future. What are the steps we should consider?
So that important thing is also thinking about the campaign that I just mentioned. The barriers need to be low. So you need to think about like different personas. So there are like ones personas who don't have any clue about cryptos and NFTs. So maybe for these personas, you should offer that they can pay directly with credit card and buy your NFT if you offer some NFT. So then like for the crypto nerds or people who already know it, that's fine if you only list it like in crypto without any credit card payment. And like for the third group, what you should also maybe do, like what not a lot of companies are doing, but for instance, you should also allow them like to buy the product without the NFT. I know it sounds a little bit weird because the NFT should have usually the utility, but if you divide it by these three groups, then you are like somehow open for like every person who's like aware of it, so the customer can decide in the end like what product they like. And I think the biggest issue what a lot of like companies are doing, they only focus on like these people who are already into crypto, who know how to use a wallet, and think about like these other groups and yeah, forget about it. Or it's quite negative also for the industry, because in the end it's always about like onboarding new people into it, because like if it only stays the existing community, then it cannot really succeed.
Yeah, I quite enjoy going on to Discord. I don't spend the whole week on Discord, but on weekends, when I'm trying to do some stuff around AI or generative AI, I have a few community group and members, and they are very approachable and very responsive to question ask around the problem I have when I play with some of those tools. But tell me, how do you integrate AI as part of this whole vision of Web3 and crypto? How do you use artificial intelligence in your work every day?
So the great thing with AI was we rolled out a strategy before this ChatGPT hype came. So we were quite early. So the thing what we did was like mainly doing like a sentiment analysis. So you have like all the feedback from your customers across like email, social media, everywhere, and you try to make sense out of it. So this is, I think, where AI can help every company, that you look like, where do you receive or have communication with the client, put it in a centralized system, and make a sentiment analysis where you check like how much volume does each topic have, and like how is the sentiment. So are people talking like in some angry way or in some positive way about this topic? So what we then discovered, what is like the most relevant for companies in the crypto industry or in Web3, that like the sentiment, no matter like what type of business you have, but the sentiment always somehow follows after the price of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
So, but usually with a slight delay of like 2 weeks. So the issue what we especially had like in like talking with our customers, that you could really see like when the prices were up, they were like super happy. But of course, like when the prices as now, like since the last 1.5 years, only going down, they of course, no matter like what you do or to a certain degree, they are usually then like unsatisfied. So of course, it's always easier to build like in a market which is going up. And like when the market is somehow going down, then like of course teams are releasing less updates, and like customers are usually also upset. So like these crashes are quite quick and also dramatic, usually when like a bear market starts. But of course you just need to be aware of these cycles.
So, I was reading an article recently around the usage of generative AI and artificial intelligence in trading. So, the whole thing about the article was that generative AI was enabling people like you and I, people who are not expert in finance, to actually follow the market and actually provide advice. Do you think that is a way where we are going to go when we start looking at artificial intelligence, mentioning your example around sentiment analysis?
Yeah.
Where you're actually looking at people's sentiment and therefore how the market is going to perform. So do you think a correlation around sentiment and then us as human and, people trying to build wealth, right? No more mom and pop trying to build wealth. Do you see generative AI as a key mechanism to doing so?
Yeah, definitely. So we had the discussion earlier. You asked like, why is Bitcoin crashing so much today? I provided you the answer. Like there's some regulatory things that needs to be clarified. And then somehow also like as a user or customer from a service, you would then understand. And I think this explanation can of course then be like fully automated. And that's also like where I see like the future of customer support in like the crypto industry, because the most things come with education and then people also understand it. So then I think like one huge factor where new people who use Bitcoin for the first time or Ethereum, like sometimes the transaction costs are really high. And that's like what's hard to understand for them. And that's a factor from the network. So not like from the service where they are buying the coins, but this is also something that needs to be explained besides the volatility. And since everyone knows how to use like WhatsApp, a chat, that's like the simplest interface. So I think putting everything in a chat interface is definitely the future of like retail trading. I also think we will have chats where you can then write in the chat, please buy now Bitcoin, do that, and then you can tell him, and you don't have to bother with like an order book, because as I said, everyone on the world knows how to use WhatsApp.
Interesting. So I want to know about Clément and where Clement is going. What is your plan for the future? Where are your project going to take you? What is going to be the vision for the future?
So the vision for the close future is, as I said, to bring like NFTs and Jägermeister bottles, because I think it's just like fun, and also for the whole Web3 community to create awareness, like in the mainstream somehow. So like of course combining like Web2 and Web3 companies is definitely something where I see myself in the future. And we also have like a second, like the big AI topic where I practice and look at things daily. And I'm also like curious, like how the next crypto hype or like what will outperform what, because we also had like the hype with Nvidia. So if now everything shifts to AI or everything to crypto, I don't know. So it's also quite hard to say like on what topic I will work the most in the future, because we don't know like where things are going and also how markets will develop. And as I said, for the cryptocurrency market, people hate it, but like price and performance is still like a factor. How the companies are getting funding, how many users are coming in, because people love when the prices are going up to buy. And so we need to see like how things are working out.
Well, I love the fact of that flexibility and be able to shift and adapt based on where the market is. I was reading an article this morning when I woke about NVIDIA actually, and it looks like NVIDIA's valuation is much higher than Tesla and Facebook now, which I was a bit surprised to read just this morning. So impressive job from the team at NVIDIA.
Yeah, and also like really funny. I think like my personal trainer at the beginning of the year, he asked me like what stock should he buy, and I was also like telling him like, yeah, maybe Nvidia. I think like this because of this AI or ChatGPT hype, and also on the other side, like Nvidia is quite known like from cryptocurrency traders because you can also see in the chart when there was like a hype in cryptocurrencies where you need like the equipment for mining, then of course like Nvidia also went up quite a lot. So it's like quite going the same path. But now since the last few weeks, Nvidia decoupled from like the crypto market once because Ethereum doesn't need that mining equipment anymore. And also because now we have this AI hype. So let's see where it goes.
Yeah, let's see where it goes. I have a quick question for you, Clément. It's more about you and your study and what you did and what got you to where you are. When you were younger and as you were a student, did you think you would be going into Web3 and cryptocurrencies? What got you? What was the point in time when you thought, I think I found my path and that will be Web3 and crypto?
So it was before my studies because my studies I only selected because I want to understand Bitcoin. I think I was like at some where they advertised like the university, like at some speech, and they said something as examples. I think like Bitcoin, football, and something else. And then I was like, okay. And this was like quite early in 2013 or something. And they mentioned it as an example. So I was like, okay, I sign up. And then sadly, doing the studies, there was almost no class or anything about Bitcoin. So I had to learn everything on my own. Yeah.
That's interesting because I think we have a major talent gap right now. And when you look at what the student need to learn, I think artificial intelligence and generative AI, all this new stuff, right, needs to be taught. And
Yeah.
I don't think there is much classes around that. And that create that skill gap and talent gap we have right now in the market. So what you are saying to all the young student out there, make sure to go for your passion and make sure to self-learn if you can, right? And find your books.
Yeah, that's true. Because like for me, so I decided to study pure economics, and doing the studies, I always knew I want to work like at a cryptocurrency exchange, and I don't care about like what type of job. So I started there, like not mainly because I want to do like customer support, but more because I want to work like at a cryptocurrency exchange. So this was like the reason. And also back then it was quite hard to get like any crypto related job in Germany. I mean, I did one small project with a bank before where they integrated crypto trading in the bank account. But besides that, there were almost no companies. So I knew quite early, okay, I want to work like at some crypto exchange, but it took some time until there were like any around in the EU.
Yeah. So just going toward the end of our discussion. So if people want to reach out to you, Clément, where do they go? How can they find you?
So they can go on LinkedIn, search for Clemens Behrend. I post there almost daily, like in the last time a little bit less, but just because so much things are going on and like some projects at the same time. But I promise to post there more again. And of course, they can also go on Web3 CX, so the tree written as a number.io. So they can find like an overview of our services. So it's mainly for services. So we help with like finding users, keeping users, also making your Web3 product as easy as possible to use. And of course, like money matters in the industry still, we quantify all the impacts of these improvements into financial numbers that you also know if these improvements are worth it.
Superb. And while you were talking about impact, I would love for you to leave your last words of wisdom for our listener. And can I ask you at the same time, what's your view around crypto and sustainability, if you have a point of view as well?
That's an amazing question. I know, and this question is like also super important in Germany because we discuss about sustainability like a lot. I think it's also like in the worldwide media, like our energy policy, how we do it in Germany. Don't want to judge this about in specific, but everybody knows it's like a huge topic in Germany. So first of all, like energy consumption, like energy itself doesn't say about anything how it's produced. So these are two different things. And like for human progress or like in human mankind, wherever was like growth and development, we used more energy. So that's like completely normal. So like judging something just because there's like a lot of energy consumption as something bad or good, you cannot really say because like the big tech companies or the computers in general consume a lot of energy. So, but what can the crypto industry do? So like Ethereum, like the second biggest cryptocurrency, they changed like to a new standard to like proof of stake where they reduce their energy consumption. So this is something what you can do within blockchain technology. So then, like but like Bitcoin cannot do that for several reasons because, as I said, Bitcoin is not a cryptocurrency. It's really like the only or first cryptocurrency which is like decentralized. So we need to think about like how we can make use of the energy because there are like some scenarios in energy production where you have too much energy and you waste it. So you can use that energy that you would otherwise have to throw away for mining, and then you get some money back, but makes your costs more operational, like as normal energy producer company. So that's the first use case. And the other thing what you can do with like mining, when you have like these computers, they make a lot of heat. So for instance, you could heat things around it or place it below like some building or whatever, as the farmers did with the cows in the past or like whatever. So there are solutions. Of course, it's not perfect. Everybody who criticized that has a point that needs to be solved. But I think the solution for the issue comes through innovation and not through like banning something. Because if you try to ban it, you bring more attention on it. And I think banning cryptocurrencies, it's possible, but I think it's not like the smart way to go about it.
So what would be your last word of wisdom for our listener who are actually looking to investigate what you do around Web3 and crypto?
Make it easy as possible for your customers to complain, because the biggest issue to any business in Web3 is when you have people who silently quit and don't tell you why. So when you receive a complaint, see it as a last chance to convince the person to stay. It's not every time possible. So this is what I would advise from people, how they should set up like the customer support operation. So having like a huge backlog is not always bad. Be happy that you receive complaints and have like customers to talk to. And of course, for like people who are want to invest into crypto, I can say like the normal things: don't invest more than you can afford to lose, and usually understand that like Bitcoin and like cryptocurrencies are two different things, or like cryptocurrencies and NFTs, different asset classes, different risks. Of course, you can do also like crypto and NFTs, but maybe not your life savings.
Thank you so much. So be careful of the silent quitter customer. So make sure your customer service is top notch, and then do not invest more than you can afford. Well, thank you, Clement, for spending some time with me on Scouting for Growth today. And I look forward to, I guess, see you very soon.
Thanks for having me, Sabine.
Pleasure. If you like this podcast, subscribe now, share with your friends, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a 5-star review. Also, if you want to cover any specific subject with me, contact me on Instagram under Sabine VdL Officials or LinkedIn under Sabine VdL. Thank you.